Welcome to BP Leadership Podcast, where real leaders are made. I'm your host, Bill Purvis, and today I'm excited about sharing our third in a conversation that I've been having with my guest, Matt Mock. Matt owns a successful IT company that he started at the age of 18. He went through a lot of struggles to get there, but he's done very well. Matt really knows the technology, and today's going to be a day we're going to talk about things like Big Brother's always listening, what technology is doing around us in this world today. We're going to talk about some spiritual things, maybe the mark of the beast and the addictiveness to smart devices that kids are playing with today. There's a lot of content in this podcast. I'm looking forward to hearing from Matt to tell us and educate us and inspire us. So let's get started.
We've had opportunities to grow, get bigger, more contracts, more clients, more staff, more employees. And
more expense.
I just have to sit and pray about it. But there's, it's probably you that told me this. Just because you get bigger doesn't necessarily mean you're more successful.
Right. That's right.
And so,
that's right.
And I don't want it to be fear that's keeping me. I want it to be, okay, you can only have so much.
Yes.
Right.
That's
and
right.
I feel like in my life, and now it sounds really weird, my children's health, after that, I'm good. I can live in a box in a daggum street.
Right.
After that, I'm good.
Yeah.
Give me my children's health and the food in their mouth.
That's right.
Everything else is extra.
That's right.
And so when I look at the growth aspect, we've actually chosen to only allot so many clients.
Yeah.
And it's which is again almost counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because if I were talking to Mr. Moneyman, he'd be like, "Oh, wait, you turned down 3 contracts this month? Why are we doing that? Hire some other IT guys.
Yeah.
Let's steamroll this thing."
Right.
But then there's like, okay, quality control.
That's right.
At the end of the day, am I going to make any more or just buy more headaches?
Yes, and you're right. And the trade-off that you're making for doing that, I think what you're liking, which I like the same. We're on the same page here. I like freedom. I want enough to have the finances in place to take care of me, and I want to make sure nothing contradicts my faith. But I also want freedom. I want the freedom to know if I decide I don't want to be there, I don't have to be there. And so that's the part that a lot of people give up too much by trying to overreach or expand too far, and they're suffering. It's the trade-off. I'm pouring more into work to make more money, but I'm losing more time with my kids, my family, my faith, and so it's the trade-off issue.
Yep.
So
with my growing up, we were never the kids that had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when my mother got involved in the computer style accounting, she got very busy.
Yeah.
And I literally remember going to Walmart. I was young. Like I was probably 12.
Yeah.
I remember on a school night going to Walmart at midnight to buy TVs because my mom was doing pretty well all of a sudden, right? Yeah. We wanted some new TVs.
Right.
So we just went and bought new TVs.
Yeah.
But she was working very hard
That's
because she wanted to, all of a sudden she had the ability to provide for us.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she was working.
Yeah.
And so, and even to this day, my mom's not scared to work. None of us are scared to work. Right. But in that period of her life, because she's out of that stage. But that period of her life, I remember it's almost like I was mad at the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now that I have kids, I don't want my kids to be mad at the work.
Right.
I want to know that when I come home, it's done.
Yeah.
Because there's always fires for tomorrow.
Always.
And I forgot the book I read. It was an amazing book. It might have been it was actually a time management book.
Right.
And, I think it was called like 10 Minutes in Time Management or something. But it talked about taking your calendar and filling it with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, walk the dog, take the kids to school.
Put your stuff on the calendar.
Because once you see your calendar, you realize you really don't have the time that you think you have.
Yes.
And so my wife, by the way, did not like this at all.
Right.
But our calendar, I was like, look, I need to spend time with the kids. So I need to know that, and especially for my mind, I need to know that from the time I get home until 8:30, because I typically go to bed about 8:30 or 9, it's time to do family stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Whether I'm helping you cook or doing the dishes or just sit and watch TV or else. But once you pet all that out, you realize there's not that much time.
That's right.
There's really not that much time. And so my mom had gone through a stage. I remember disliking work. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to overwork myself.
Right.
I know there's always fires for the next day. Yeah. And so it's just kind of got off on a tangent.
Right, but you're not wasting your time that way. You're prioritizing.
Yep.
That thing with the calendar too. Saying I used to have it that it's not an issue of will your calendar be full. The question is who will fill my calendar.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
If Debbie and I take hours each year about December, and we will plan out for the whole new year, and we'll write out where's the vacations and doctor's appointments and all that, and put that on there so that I can know at a glance I got mine out of it, because other things are going to get your time.
What's amazing to me is Pastor Brent talking about.
Yeah.
I think he was telling me y'all's calendar is like 2 years out.
It
something
is.
insane.
We create our own. We actually take a copy machine the old-fashioned way, create it for 2021, 2022.
Yeah, I'm not that far out. Yeah. Holla if you need some IT. But right. Like 2 years, that's a long time.
Well, there's certain things we say, okay, I'll put that down. The bad thing is it gets you quicker than you think. I mean, all of a sudden you look up and there it is. And we say, I can't get out of it because I put it on here 2 years ago when there was nothing.
That's
but
funny.
The good is that at least you stay on a track. You don't have wasted time and all that.
Yeah. Now, you also told me if you don't plan your calendar, someone else will.
That's right.
I know that's a variant of what you just said, but I hear that all in my head. I hear that all the time because somebody will call, not his family.
Yeah.
God bless them. I love them all.
Yeah.
But your calendar will get filled with stuff that is not in priority.
I know.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And you can't say yes to everything.
You can't.
No.
Oh my gosh. Saying no. I got this from a book, but it's basically like, if it's not a heck yes, it's a no. Right? Like it has to be a full out yes.
That's good.
Otherwise, it's a no, or let me think about it.
Yeah.
Because we're so, in this day and age, we're so yes.
And people feel guilty if they write down there, I'm taking my wife out on a date, or I'm taking the kids out. They feel guilty if there's some job that has an emergency. Here's what I say. I just say, I already have something scheduled. Now, they can put in their mind whatever that is. They could, it may be just walking the yard, but I've already got something scheduled. And that way it says for me, I don't have to explain where I'm at or what I'm doing, but I still get my time. And so that's the part with it. Now, let me ask you this. In your business, one of the things that's happening now, we talked about this the other night at dinner, I can literally say something I've never said before. I mean, if my phone is within a few feet from me, I can say, I'm thinking about going to Parasail in Belize. And I never said that before, never thought of that. 10 minutes later, my phone will pop up with these little ads or something, and it will say, interested in parasailing in Belize.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always kind of creeped me out. I said, man, my phone's listening.
Which, by the way, today, you're parasailing in Belize on your ads.
Yeah, it will be. It'll pop. Yeah, and so that's what I'm wondering. What is it with that in the technical world? Is Big Brother always listening? Is there something going on? Tell us about that, because that's the intriguing part.
So what's happened is it's changed where we did not realize that we have become the commodity. So what happened is it used to be and even obviously we're the commodity. There's some marketing to us about products, and that product is something they want to sell, but they're selling us too. So in a standard day, you give up. I mean, I've heard some things, I've heard one reference that if you were to stack paper on top of each other, each day you give enough to reach to the moon.
Wow.
So there's a lot of data that they pull from us. Now, granted, nothing's ever free.
Yeah.
Right. Most of this has become because of mobile devices, and you have some big players in the game, Microsoft, Apple, Google. Yeah. And all these guys, they are really trying to, it's for you. Right. They're trying to make your life easier, right? Yeah. Let me help you out with this thing. Right. But in order to do that, you have to gather tons of data. So what's happened is we carry a phone around with us everywhere. Right. And many of the applications you install, because technically I don't know that it's necessarily the provider. So it's like Google, Apple, Microsoft. But Microsoft's kind of out of the game right now, but they're still present. I don't know that it's so much the provider, but it's the app you download, right? Okay. So all of a sudden you download the weather app, and it's free, and it's great. It even warns you when the thunderstorm's coming. But it also has full access to all of your text, has full access to your mic, it has full access to these things. It can screen record, so, and not necessarily that app, don't sue me weather.com.
Yeah, that's right.
But there's these apps, that's what they do. Yeah. And what happens is the typical user, they may have 20 or 30 apps. Yeah. And do you think they read the EULA? No. Wow. Yeah. They're like downloading. It's like, do you agree? Yeah, sure, whatever. They just agree. And it typically says, we're going to look at your content. So cool. You have the applications, and then you have the base product. So it's the Apple iPhone, which is iOS. You have Android, which is built from Google.
Okay.
Those are your two huge players.
Mm-hmm.
You have those two bases, and what they do is they track your whereabouts. They track, a lot of different things.
Right.
Because all your content's on their phone.
Yeah.
So then they use that to make your life better. We're going to tell you when you get in the car today that you're 6 minutes from work.
Yeah, I'm getting that. And I'm saying, well, how do they know where I'm going?
And because what they do is that, we're very habitual. Like, whether we know it or not.
Right.
We always pretend like, somebody can't figure me out.
Right.
We're super habitual.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so what happens is it understands that, 6 days a week at this time, you're going to the same place.
Okay.
Because it's following you the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's giving that data up to the almighty cloud. So what happens is they use all that data, all of it, and then should the application or the OS itself choose to sell that product, which is you, for selling you, they can go to Walmart and they can say, hey, Walmart, we know that Mr. Bill is here twice a week, and we know that he standardly goes to the shampoo section. So would you like this content? Because then guess what? You can advertise shampoo to Mr. Bill, and I'll even tell you when he's there.
How about that?
So then what happens is it's not happenstance.
Yeah.
You get advertisements while you're near a facility.
Yeah.
It's not happenstance. You get advertisements for an item that you just picked up in the store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So even for us, and when I say we're small IT, we're by no means, we handle about 6,000 devices. Right. So in the world of MSPs, which is what we are, that's pretty small potatoes.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of these guys are managing, hundreds of thousands of devices. So we're pretty small potatoes. Well, even with us, what we're able to see on a network, right? And if we're small potatoes, then we could go, hey, I know that Mr. Bill walked in the building over here.
Right.
He went here. He stood here for 15 minutes. He went to this over here. His phone went to this site, this site, this site, this site.
Wow.
He's on this type of phone. So even the stuff that I can see, imagine what the person who wrote the code can see.
Wow.
And so, and then what's happened is, I believe that we have freely and willingly become a part of an ecosystem without really knowing it, and a lot of times Revelations, you hear about taking the chip, you hear about these things, the end times. Yeah. And so I think that everything, because in timing, I think me and you were laughing about this last night, like, and this is a blink of an eye.
Yes.
My entire life.
That's right.
This entire century.
Right. That's
millennium.
right.
It's a blink of an eye
in
eternity.
Yes.
So for us, if you take, I think Google, and I'm going to tell you this wrong, it was like the early 2000s, okay? So we're saying 15 years later, think about what they have.
Yes.
They own the largest building in New York City. They own most of they're purchasing up power grids.
Right.
So
wow.
They do things on the back end and most people aren't paying attention. And meanwhile, you're holding them in your pocket.
Yeah.
Now we have watches. You wear them. Right? And so what happens is it's not going to be that we realize that we're taking what would be called the mark of the beast.
Right.
It's just going to be, it's what you do.
Yeah.
It's what you do. And so, and I heard one person say, we essentially are already mechanized. Because we will not leave the house.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen somebody leave the house without their phone?
I've seen them come
back. Oh, gosh.
They have a meltdown.
Oh, gosh. So I think that it's definitely, it's a very odd place to be. I think a good example is Disney World. If you go to Disney World, the way that they operate, to me, is a prime example of where it can lead.
Yeah, when you
good
get
or
the
bad,
little band there going in, that suddenly records everywhere you go, everything you do, everything you buy.
They do, and they use facial recognition while you're in the place. So what they do is they assign your band to you as a person and your face to that band ID, so then they can track where you're at in the park. They can even they can track happy or sad. Yeah. So they can kind of see what you're doing, and it helps them. And I, what's weird about them is that, nefarious reasons or not, they know then, okay, you probably need to do product placement. Oh, we might need to shift this. We're finding out there's congestion in this area.
Where most people habitually turn left when they walk into a room.
That's right. And I think so there's always pros and cons. And so I think that's why you can go to a place like that sees, 500,000 people a day or whatever in all their parks, and they will route them almost seamlessly. Yeah. And guess what? Every time you go, a little bit better. Yeah. A little bit better. Yeah. A little bit better.
Well, what's crazy on that was I'm reading the book right now by the guy that is the CEO of Disney World.
Oh, wow.
And he's got a place in there where he talks about that ability that the Orlando shooter, the guy that went into that nightclub and then killed all those people, first started. They believe he was going to start something at Disney World. That he went on the property twice, went out to the Blues restaurant, went up to it. They said he had it was a little, it looked like he was carrying a baby in a bag, but he had guns.
Oh, gosh.
And he went up, but there was so many police around because they're having a concert. And he looked around, then he walked out, but he came back later. And then finally got in a car, left the property, and went over to the nightclub, and that's where he did the shooting.
Wow.
But he started at Disney World. But they were able to quickly assess. I mean, from the minute they heard about the shooting, they said, let's see if any of our employees were there. And then when the guy's name popped up, they popped it in, and they went to the videos and watched him and everything else. And again, that's that ability to track you all over. They saw where he went. They even saw up close what he had in that little blanket. And,
I think it's good, and it's an easy way to sell something when it's for your safety.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't help but think, even we talk about like the mark of the beast and all that. In the earlier days when I first came up, and people would be talking about Revelation, the last days, and they would talk about how the gospel gets to the whole world, and the whole world has to hear of him, and then somebody will come along as the Antichrist, and they will have data on everybody in the world. And everybody scoffed because they would say, how do we in America know anything about anybody in a hut over in Timbuktu? And now it's not unforeseen. Now we know that's a strong possibility. I also wonder along the line of like deadbeat dads and all that and parolees that they're always looking for and trying to track. When they talk about some type chip or some type mechanism that allows you to track people, I think they can do it as a way of also identity theft. They can say, listen, instead of worrying about your wallet, somebody getting up, how about this? If we can just put this device on you or in you, that's a safety issue for you. Nobody can steal your identity. We can keep up with all these fathers that are not paying child support. We can find out where the parolees are hiding out. So they basically, they do it under the guise of safety, but now all of us are being monitored. And then it comes to the buying and selling aspect that they can force. And so,
it's very, very sketchy.
Yeah, you see it moving that way. You even see in the country that it's a divide with we've moved far from being left to being way out there, centric and socialist and all the rest. And you just see how easily all these things can dismantle individuality and capitalism and bring everybody back to one place. We're all on one page, monitored by Big Brother somehow. I look at that and say I can see the possibility now that I couldn't have seen 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you have it. That is part 3 of this podcast conversation with Bill and Matt Mock. And part 4 is coming to you soon, so make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so that you get notified as soon as that podcast airs. Not only that, guys, this podcast is growing. We are seeing some great growth and having some just awesome stories of people who are listening to this, and y'all are really latching on. A lot of y'all are listening every single week when we release a new one, which we are so grateful for. But do us a favor, if you like this podcast, whether you're listening to it or you're watching it on YouTube, not only subscribe and hit the bell and get notifications and stuff, but share it with your friends. And not just that, like it and rate it so that other people see that you like this podcast, and maybe they'll sign on to it and they'll get to hear the great content that Bill is consistently bringing you guys each and every week, just like you're getting. So share it, like it, rate it, and review it so that we can get this out to as many people as possible. We cannot do it without you, so make sure that you help us out as we do that. Thank y'all for all you do. Can't wait for this next part. Make sure you stay tuned for that, and remember that this is where real leaders are made.